Okay, bear with me while I try and figure out what to do with this new setup. I got myself a fancy standing desk for my home office and I'm loving it, so I'm going to stand today. Hey friends, welcome or welcome back. My name is Shannon, and today we are going to talk about some books in celebration of Women's History Month. I gathered a bunch of books off of my shelves that I have not read yet, that I feel kind of encompass women's history. I have lots of books about women. Most of my biographies on the back here are about women, so I'm always reading about historical women, but I figured I'd grab a bunch of nonfiction books that try to sort of encompass women's history, not just a particular woman. So these are going to be in no particular order. I literally just grabbed them off my shelves. I haven't done any prep for this video. I just figured, what the heck? I've got some beautiful sunlight coming in. I might as well shoot a video. Starting off with The Witches, Suspicion, Betrayal, and Hysteria in 1692 Salem by Stacey Schiff. Stacey Schiff is most well known these days for her biography on Cleopatra that came out recently, which I have, but I have not read yet, and I do want to get to that. Very interesting historical woman. And I have been to Egypt, and I have seen all of the Cleopatra things, and it's quite fantastic. Anyway, so 1692 Salem. I live in Massachusetts. I live on the South Shore. Salem is on the North Shore, but Salem is obviously very, very famous for the Salem witch trials. And the reason I chose this is because you can't really talk about women's history without talking of the fact that for, thousands, hundreds, however many years, women are always being accused of being witches, and many, many have lost their lives because of it. The panic began in 1692 over a raw Massachusetts winter when a minister's niece began to writhe and roar. It spread quickly as neighbors accused neighbors, husbands accused wives, parents and children one another. It ended less than a year later, but not before 19 men and women had been hanged. So men also were accused, but for the scope of history, it really was mostly women. Drawing masterfully on the archives of the Salem witch trials, Stacey Schiff makes palpably real for us one of the most electrifying chapters in American history. She illuminates the demands of a rigorous faith and the vulnerability of settlements adrift from the mother country. Definitely something I want to get to, especially since it's happened pretty much in my backyard. Next, we have Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot. And I picked this up because feminism here in the United States really has mostly been white feminism. And, the white women trying to get obvious things that women should have, the vote and equal rights and equal pay and all of the things. But the charge was generally led by white women and just forgot or deliberately excluded women of color who had and still have different requirements for feminism. Today's feminist movement has a glaring blind spot, and paradoxically, it is women. Mainstream feminists rarely talk about meeting basic needs as a feminist issue. Food security, access to quality education, safe neighborhoods, a living wage, and medical care are all feminist issues. All too often, however, the focus is not on basic survival for the many, but on increasing privilege for the few. And that's just been the history of feminism here in the United States. White women increasing their privilege and leaving women of color behind. Also in that vein, we have Women, Race, and Class by Angela Y. Davis, and this is a classic feminist text. We've got chapters here: The Legacy of Slavery, Standards for a New Womanhood, Class and Race in the Early Women's Rights Campaign, Racism in the Women Suffrage Movement. Like I said, it's always been about white feminism, and women of color have just been ignored. Education and Liberation, Black Women's Perspective, Racism, Birth Control, and Reproductive Rights. So you get the picture here. So these two books are, cover similar topics and I think are essential for women's history. Next, we have Women and Gender in Islam, Historical Roots of a Modern Debate by Leila, Ahmed. And I believe this was written in the 90s. And I picked this up recently because it was just republished in this new edition. And I have to tell you, I don't know a whole lot about Islamic women at all. This pioneering study of the social and political lives of Muslim women has shaped a whole generation of scholarship. In it, Leila Ahmed explores the historical roots of contemporary debates, ambitiously surveying Islamic discourse on women from Arabia during the period in which Islam was founded, to Iraq during the Classical Age, to Egypt during the modern era. And this has chapters talking about the pre-Islamic Middle East, and then women and the rise of Islam, medieval Islam, social and intellectual change, the discourse of the veil, the first feminists, divergent voices, etc. So I think this would be a really great addition to learning about women's history. Next is The Bonds of Womanhood, Women's Sphere in New England, 1780 to 1835. I picked this up because it was about New England, and I live in New England, I live in Massachusetts, so this seemed interesting to me. And it's just basically studying the meaning of domesticity and the woman's sphere at that time. On Women by Susan Sontag, and this is a collection of essays, presumably, about women. On Women presents 7 essays and exchanges spanning a range of subjects: the challenges and humiliations women face as they age, the relationship between women's liberation and class struggle, beauty, which Sontag calls that overrich brew of so many familiar opposites, feminism, fascism, and film. Taken together, these pieces, relentlessly curious, historically precise, politically robust, and allergic to easy categorization, illustrate Sontag's inimitable mind at work. So, and this is not that long, so I should be able to get through this, and maybe I will try to get to it this month. First of all, I haven't read any of these. There's no way I'm going to get to all of these for Women's History Month, but maybe I'll pick up this one because it's small and it should fit nicely with other things I have planned for this month. Okay, this is a fun one, and this is Unmentionable, The Victorian Lady's Guide to Sex, Marriage, and Manners by Therese O'Neill. So if you want to know what it was like to be a woman in the Victorian era, what to wear, you had to conceal your menstruation, like what did women do? What to expect on your wedding night. I can't imagine women were given the down and dirty facts as to what was going to happen, but maybe I was wrong. How to be the perfect Victorian wife. I think this is going to be fun. And it has some illustrations here. Oh, wow. Some naughty illustrations here. But I do think that this will be a fun read and very apropos for women's history. Next, I have The Patriarchs, The Origins of Inequality by Angela Saini. For centuries, prominent thinkers have treated male domination among humans as natural or inevitable. But how would our understanding of gender inequality, our imagined past and contested present, look if we didn't assume that men have always ruled over women? If we saw gendered oppression as something fragile that, alongside other forms of inequality, has had to be constantly remade and reasserted. So yeah, The Patriarchs by Angela Saini. I am looking forward to getting to this eventually. Next is Off with Her Head, 3,000 Years of Demonizing Women in Power by Eleanor, Herman. Imagine Donald Trump as a woman, called Donna. Would Donna Trump have been seen as blunt, honest, and refreshing? Or would she have been viewed as arrogant, unpresidential, and boastful? Would she have won the election? So this was published before the current election, so after Trump's first election. Imagine Hillary Clinton as a man. Harry Clinton says and does the exact same things as Hillary. Would Harry Clinton have been portrayed in 1,000 images as a witch on a broomstick or called a bitch on countless t-shirts? Would his thoughtful, circumspect answers to media questions have been seen as inauthentic, secretive, and untrustworthy? I think we all know the answer to these questions. There is a particular kind of rage usually reserved for women, especially women in power or vying for it. From the ancient world to the European Renaissance, up to the most recent US elections, meaning the last US elections. The misogynist handbook, as Eleanor Herman calls it, has been wielded to put uppity women in their place, sometimes with deadly effect. I mean, you can't talk about women's history without talking about how society, how the patriarchy has demonized women in power. And we have absolutely seen that here in the United States. Okay, these last two are not similar, but kind of related. So I guess I'll just start with this one. The Fall of Roe, The Rise of a New America by Elizabeth Diaz and Lisa Lehrer. And so, I mean, this is what it says it is. It is talking about the fall of Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed access to safe abortions here in the United States since the 70s. In June 2022, Americans watched in shock as the Supreme Court reversed one of the nation's landmark rulings. For nearly half a century, Roe was synonymous with women's rights and freedoms. Then suddenly it was gone. The Fall of Roe reveals the explosive inside story of how it happened. It's a shocking political and religious campaign to take down abortion rights and remake American families, womanhood, and the nation itself. This is going to be a hard read for me because access to women's health care and rights to choose and the right to be able to control the size of their families is so important, and people don't realize how important that is and what the fallout is going to be. And I don't even know how to talk about it. I just know it's a very, very dangerous thing that they did. And I do believe it's going to have ramifications that we cannot imagine right now. And I do believe a lot of women are going to die. So this is going to be a hard read for me, but it needs to be done. So in that vein, the last book here on this list for women's history, we go to where it all started. Eve, How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution. Let's start at the beginning, okay? 200 million years ago, evolution of the female body. Something that men have been trying to control from the beginning, which is why they got rid of Roe v. Wade. They just want to control everything. This is by Kat Bohannon, and so this is exactly what it says it is. It is the history of the woman's body. Why do women live longer than men? Why do women experience menopause? Why are women more likely to get Alzheimer's? How did wet nursing lead to the growth of civilization? Does the female brain really exist? And so she's just going to go through everything. I've heard some reviews on this. She goes in a lot of detail. The more I know, the more I know. So I think this will be a great selection for Women's History Month if you are looking for something to read, but I have not read it yet. So let me know if you have read any of these, if there are any I should prioritize. What are you reading to learn about women's history? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day. Bye.